I love me some offensive line. Dolphins have made offensive line moves. They brought back Isaiah Wynn, who was a left guard last year. Got Jack Driscoll, who was a backup tackle from Philadelphia. And then there's some Connor news. So I'm going to cover all three of those things today and kind of pull together what this offensive line is looking like, in my opinion. Now, I was reading, I love my comments. I was going through some comments. I guess it was a new guy who never really watched me much. He was talking about my evals on Hunt and Wilkins, how we could assign him in 22, and Van Ginkel in 22, and how we could have done this or that. And he's like, that's a little too much revisionist history for me. Now, the bad part is if I monkey things up and screw it up, that screw up is in the catalog of my stuff forever. But if I say something right, it is there too. So I don't really do revisionist history. I have evals. You can go back and check them. And I stick with them until I'm proven wrong, or I, double down when I'm proven right. With my eval here today on what we added this offensive line and the overall design of this offensive line isn't about being positive or negative. It's about my evaluations, which I've done pretty good so far over the years, especially on this offensive line. Doesn't mean I'm right here. And there is some, I guess, unhappy parts about these moves. There is some positive, not in the Connor part. But I just want you to understand, it's not about me trying to be positive and negative. It's just me trying to evaluate fairly. And my evaluation has always been, in the NFL, the offensive line makes the world go around, and you've got to have physicality to dominate the A and B gaps. And if you don't do that, you have yourself at a disadvantage. And so it's always going to be that way until I'm proven wrong. But so far, this has been a tried and true formula. So I'm going to get into all this stuff, the Wynn, Driscoll, and Connor thing, and pulling it all together for the offensive line. But before I do that, guys, I want to say thanks for stopping by on the live Friday night. A great time. Had some really good guys come on. Anybody who wants to come on, just email me at curtis@aceperhead.com. Come on. You can come and go. You can put an image up if you don't want your face to be seen. I really just appreciate the guys that keep coming on and helping out with this and just showing their opinion. It's a community thing for me, so I'm really grateful. So thanks for stopping by. Going to do it again this week, Friday night at 10 p.m. So come check it out. Come on in and talk if you want, whatever. Join me. Just email me. But guys, the likes, the subscribes, the comments, and the views, that's how I stay in business. There's the algorithm gods. If they're happy, my sponsors are happy, and then I keep doing the thing I love. So I want to give you a shout out and a shout out to Ace Per Head, my sponsor, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, this Barry Jackson tweet came out. It's not Twitter anymore. It's X. I can't keep up with this stuff. I am just like so out of sorts with, I don't know, the whole trend or whatever. It's Twitter, X, whatever it is, but it's still a tweet, I suppose. Barry Jackson, Connor Williams' knee injury was significant. He's not signing anywhere anytime soon. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, said on his regular Sunday night WSVN segment. Now, I heard from a lot of comments, some really good comments, gave me stuff that I didn't hear, that Louis Riddick said did so bad that Connor might retire. So I don't see him in the Dolphins' future, and he might not be in the future of any team. I think he was upset going into the season. This is a real dangerous job, and this guy is a prime of his career, and now he's fighting for his livelihood. And the fact that he didn't get to sign the protection for that long-term agreement, played, and then kind of played a little injured, came back a little early, I think. It didn't cause the re-injury, but it's part of it. And now he might be fighting for, I don't think he's coming back here. I think there might be some bad blood here if he's coming back at all. So I think the Connor thing is, especially with Brewer being signed, I just don't see him returning. I'm just praying this kid can play because he was a real talent. That his snapping ability, if it could have gotten better, this guy could have had an amazing career. It's terrible. This game is so brutal. So I want to give you guys a heads up. People have been asking me about that, and right now it's out in the front of everything. Now, O-line, as I said, makes the NFL world go around. And I've been saying this for a few years, so I am not front running or revisionist history, you can go check. I've been saying the run game is, pass balance is becoming back. The run game is more important. Teams are starting to load up on the running back again. It's starting to rise in prominence. The interior O-line market is rising, and it's key to have guys of talent. And Chris Kaufman does an amazing job. I don't know all the time, but there's times he just puts stuff out there on the offensive line, is so succinct, and I would dare say brilliant. I don't use that word too much, but you could see how good these succinct bits of information are, and it just really distills a long, big blah, 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 what I tend to do, and I love that, okay? So I keep hearing OLLs are less and less ready as rookies. You can use PFF data to visualize this trend by going year to year WTD averages of qualifying rookie OLs and percentage ranks relative to all offensive linemen. I don't know how to do all that stuff. I wish I did. Clear deterioration in the quality of rookie OL contributions. And you can see that black line. It kind of peaked out in 2017, and then it's been going down. And part of that is as this easy pass game has kind of been constricted, and then the two-a-days, the extra practices, the preseason game, all offensive line is so difficult for so many reasons. But the reason offensive line talent is rising as far as people paying big money for it is because the lack of practices breaks down the consistency, the chemistry, along with the injuries and all this other stuff, and the inability to get rookies in to contribute right away. And when you got a guy who's really talented, that talent can offset the lack of practices and help out guys who aren't so talented, and everybody not getting that practice. They're invaluable, and is why the loss of Robert Hunt is going to be felt. It's going to be big, okay? Now, if you notice, I've been saying too, for 2 years now, the refs have been changing their calls on offensive holding. It's crazy the stuff they don't call. And sometimes I feel like they're fixing the game, but I think, and I've kind of said, it's either fixing the game or they understand that the lack of practices, the lack of ability for these guys to develop chemistry, the product would be so bad if they called these holding calls that they're just letting stuff go that has always been called. And it kind of also pollutes the game as well, though, because sometimes they'll make a call and sometimes they won't. When do you make these holding calls? But even with letting all these holding calls go, you're seeing a degeneration of the production of young players. But the separation between the haves and the have-nots as far as the talent and the ability in the offensive line is becoming wider and wider. And that's why you're seeing crazy numbers for these offensive line. They're very hard to find, very hard to develop, and very hard to keep. But they are key pieces. So this what you're seeing with this graphic here also points to what the Dolphins are thinking. The Dolphins, if they don't really get themselves together this season, it could be a very tough season. They could take a tremendous step back. Now, they could take another tremendous step forward in 25 when everything comes together, but I don't think the fan base or the front office is looking to see a big step back because there is some angst going on here with the way the Dolphins have not won a playoff game with all these talent leaving, with all these picks that we have. And so the addition of Wynn is very good, and Driscoll in a sense, because these guys are vets. And there's a lot to be said about adding a less talented vet than a more talented rookie if you're trying to win now. And Chris Greer, he's not done well. He really doesn't pick many offensive linemen from 2016, even beyond before that, when he was head of football operations. And then his hit rate on them is very, very low. And so the addition of Wynn and Driscoll, Eichenberg, Brewer, Tehran, and Jackson could be saying something. I'm going to get into that now. But before I do, I'm going to get into Wynn. There's a lot of misrepresentation of Isaiah Wynn. Now, Isaiah Wynn's not a good run blocker in the sense that he gets into guys and drives them out. He's like 6'2", 305. He's not a big guy. He struggles with power. When the clock gets a little bit later, he gets driven back. He's good with his hands. He's got good agility. He's smart. He's pretty decent on the move. He can get to that second level and use his hands and his agility to chip guys. But late clock in the pass game, he struggles because of his lack of power, and he does not drive block, and he's always injured. I don't mind him coming back. He's a good depth guy to fill in here or there. But if we have plans for him to be the left guard, it's going to be a major problem. And then what I said is, an offensive line is like a superhero team. You have to have some kind of vision of what you want it to be. Now, you take Wynn at 6'2", 305, and Brewer at 6'1", 275, or some people say 285. These are small guys who can drive block. And then you add Eichenberg, who's bigger, 6'5", at 305, 310, 315, depending, but he doesn't play at that size. He can't drive block. If these guys are your starters, that A gap is going to be lost. You can't drive block. Yeah, they can pass protect in the quick throw, and I'm sure they'll do pretty good maybe in the zone stretch, but it's going to be very predictable. You're not going to have the threat, that 4-point tension, because these three guys together don't make it happen. Now, you got Jones, but Jones has never started over these guys. He has trouble in the zone stretch, and I expect him to be a backup. And he's the oddball out, and maybe you could bring him in for certain sets or maybe against certain opponents. But if you look at Jackson, you look at Tehran, you look at Brewer, you look at Eichenberg, and you look at Wynn, these guys are not drive blockers. None of them are. And it looks like we're going to lean very, 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 very heavy into our zone stretch and our crack seals. But that interior is going to be very poor as it stands. If Wynn starts, if Eichenberg starts, and obviously Brewer is starting. Brewer, I think, can play. If you got two really good, multifaceted, bigger, ability to be physical guards, but when you put two softer guys in those positions, I think it's going to work good on the zone stretch. But I'm worried about the cutback on zone stretch and also the drive blocking. So this is a concern. Maybe we still draft that really good guard at 21, or maybe, as some people have said, Chris Grier does not like to spend big on guards. So maybe he's drafting a tackle to replace Tehran at that point. But that 21 spot for a tackle can be iffy. For me, the dream would be JPJ and then also Sweat. Those, if we could somehow get those two guys, it would be massive. But I don't think they can get him, and I don't think they want to spend money on that. And that's why they got Brewer at the center spot. So I think they're looking at tackle, or maybe not even drafting an offensive lineman in the first and second round, because they do need a lot of help on that D line. And maybe even Brockers, if he falls out there. I do like Wynn because it doesn't force you to have to do it. But you can't go into the season with him starting. It won't be pretty. And then Driscoll, I like Driscoll a lot. He's going to fill in for that Lamb spot with a guy who comes in. Maybe he can play a little guard. Maybe he can even try to fill that spot. But he's 305. He's not a drive blocker either. He's solid. He can play a little bit. He gets beat on the speeds on the edges. But it's not a guy that you would say, hey, he's an upgrade. He's an upgrade in depth, but then so is Wynn. I think they'll look good in the zone stretch, like I said. But man, that A and B gap domination, the ability to run in, third and short in the red zone, the ability to run inside zone, I don't know how it's going to happen with this. So we'll see. I've liked the finesse wraparound that we did as far as on the secondary. I liked, what we did with the linebacking group, but I'm a little concerned right now. But Grier has plenty of ammo. Let's see what happens. Let's hope we get some physicality here, because we're going to need it. At least on the D side, if not the O. Kind of understand the finesse move. But anyway, this is what I see. We'll see. Could be wrong. But Wynn's, I don't know. I don't know. I got as a backup, but please don't let him be the starter with Eichenberg and Brewer. That's scary. Anyway, Curtis saying, thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.